You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 161.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I can't even start to tell you how much is going on and how excited I am for two major things. Number one, my book, So Now What, is coming out April 2nd. If you haven't heard me talk about So Now What, it is literally the resource that I wish I would have had when I found out that I was going to live a life without children. I went through 7 years of fertility treatments in multiple cities at some of the most well-known facilities for reproductive endocrinology. And there was never once a discussion where people gave me resources about living a life without children. There was resources for adoption, there was resources for donor egg, but never once did anyone acknowledge that childlessness was an okay place to end up. I wrote So Now What to talk about the things that we struggle with as women who are unexpectedly childless after years of fertility treatments. Whether you attempted to become a mom through fertility treatments, maybe you never met the partner that you wanted to have children with, maybe you have health conditions that are preventing you from having biological children. So Now What has something for you. Now, I write this book as a focus from somebody who went through IVF and went through this journey with my husband. But that doesn't mean that there's not similar things that we have experienced. So every single word may not exactly resonate with you, but overall, I believe the concepts will. So it is available for pre-order right now on Amazon. It releases on April 2nd. So if you order your book right now, you will be able to be one of the first to have it. I also ask, if you order a book, would you do me the hugest favor and write a review? If you would like to be part of my book launch team, I'll explain what that is all about. All you have to do is send me a DM at lana.manikowski on Instagram, or you can email me at hi@lanamanikowski.com. But I would love to have you be part of my book launch team. You will get an even earlier preview into the book if you'd like to join the team. But whatever you do, know that this journey you're on may not have had resources, but that doesn't mean that it is too late to figure out what your future is going to be like without children. And for a long time, I didn't know that I could love my life. I didn't know that I could feel connected to the woman that I was, even though I didn't have the children that I dreamed of. And I think so many of us are dealing with that unexpected way of existing that might not feel like the person that you were before infertility or before you found out that you couldn't become a mom. So please support my new book, So Now What, available right now for pre-order on Amazon. Next thing I'm excited about is tickets for the Others Day Brunch are live. If you've heard me talk about the Others Day Brunch, then you know that this is an event that I started in 2022 because I had been walking the aisles of Target. It was April of 22, so 4 years ago, seeing everything about Mother's Day. And even though I have a mother that I'm close with and family that I celebrate with on Mother's Day, there was part of me that felt like I just never would fit in on Mother's Day. And so I came home that day from Target and I thought to myself, if I'm feeling this way, I bet other women are too. And I went on Meetup. I started my childless and child-free group on Meetup 4 years ago. There are now over 600 women that are part of my Meetup group. People that, like you, are wanting to meet other people that don't have kids, wanting to talk about things other than what your kids are doing in school and mom things and all the things that don't necessarily correlate with their lives. When I initially started that Meetup group, that was the blossom of the Others Day Brunch. That was basically the event that I posted and people came to for the first time. And here we are 4 years later, celebrating again. And I hope that you consider coming in town. You can find more information at lanamanikowski.com/othersday, OTHERSDAY. And this is not just for people in Chicago. People have come from Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky, Ohio, Puerto Rico, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Florida, Massachusetts. I'm sure I'm forgetting some states, but there are people that come from out of town for this event. And if that is something that you're thinking about doing, absolutely do it. My friend Melissa Miller, her handle on Instagram is autoimmune resilience. She is going to be your point person. She's going to organize all the people from out of town to kind of get together, head over to the brunch together the morning of. So if you're freaking out about coming in town and not knowing anyone, you will already have a core group of people that you can hang with and show up at the brunch with. So I hope that you come. It's $75 for tickets, and that includes a professionally catered brunch, a mimosa bar, a coffee bar, and anything else you could possibly dream of. So I hope that you decide to join us on May 10th in Chicago for the Others Day Brunch 2025. All right. So that was a lot of announcements. So let's get on with today's episode. Today, I want to dive deep into an important realization that so many of us have faced on this journey of life after infertility and life as childless people. If you've ever felt like your purpose, maybe your joy, your sense of fulfillment were tied to having a child, only to find yourself in a space where that dream did not come true, then episode 161 is for you. Because so many of us believe that motherhood was that missing piece, that thing that would finally make us whole. That once we had that baby in our arms, everything else would just fall into place, our relationships, our identity, our reason for being. And when that didn't happen, it felt like you were left with nothing. And it probably felt like life had lost its meaning. But today, I want to offer you a different way to look at this, and a way to step into a life where you are the source of your fulfillment, no matter what your status is with motherhood. In my 4 years of coaching women who are trying to create a life they love without the children that they dreamed of, I have seen a pattern that mirrors what we often hear in the world of mindset and personal growth. It's this cycle where the more we want something, the more we notice its absence. The more we focus on the thing that we don't have, the more painful its non existence becomes. I'm guessing that for so long you believe that having a child would solve everything, that struggle of infertility, the pain of failed cycles, the weight of uncertainty would all be worth it in the end if you just got to hold that baby. But when that outcome never arrived, your focus likely stayed on that absence of the child, the absence of a future that you imagined, the absence of the version of yourself you expected to become. And I completely understand. I have been there too. That is why I do what I do. I know what it's like to think if I could just have had this baby, everything else in my life would have meaning. And I know what it's like to sit in that space of wondering what's left when the thing that you held on to so tightly is no longer an option. But here's what I want you to hear today. That desire you had for a child was not just about the child. It was about who you believed you would become in the having of that child. Because we live in this world that tells us that certain milestones complete us. You grow up, you go to college, you find a partner, you have a baby, and suddenly, ta-da, you're whole. But let's challenge that belief for just a second. How many times have you set a goal believing that achieving it would make you feel a certain way, only to get there and realize that you still feel the same inside? Maybe you've seen women around you who did have their babies, and yet they still feel unfulfilled. They still struggle. They still wonder who they are beyond motherhood. Maybe you've reached other big milestones like marriage, career, buying a house, personal achievements, and find out that they didn't bring you that feeling you thought they would. But I want to talk about, what if instead of believing that something outside of you completes you, you realize that you are the source of your own completeness. There's a powerful concept in the work of one of my mentors, her name's Abraham Hicks, that I want to bring into this conversation. It's this idea that every time you recognize what you don't have, you are simultaneously creating clarity about what you do want. So if you're sitting in the absence of motherhood, ask yourself, what does that tell me about what I desire? What does motherhood, or what did you believe motherhood would create for you that you're desiring? Is it connection? Is it love? Is it purpose? Is it a contribution? And more importantly, are those things only accessible through motherhood? Or have you just believed or been told that they are? What if dwelling on the absence of motherhood, you started looking at the expansion? If you desire deep connection, what are ways that you can cultivate it? Like I did with Mother's Day. I desired a connection around Mother's Day, so I created it. If you long to nurture, how can you bring that energy into your life in a new and meaningful way? If purpose is what you thought motherhood would give you, what purpose is waiting for you now? I know that hearing this might bring up resistance. Maybe you're thinking, oh, that's easy to say, but it doesn't change the fact that I wanted to be a mom and now I'm not. I totally honor that. I will never tell you that you shouldn't feel the grief or the loss. But what I will tell you is that your life is not over, that your purpose is not gone, and that you have the power to shift from feeling like you were left with nothing to realizing that you were always meant to create something new. And this isn't about pretending you never wanted to be a mom. It's about recognizing that you are more than that one desire, that you have an entire life still ahead of you waiting to be fully lived. So if this conversation resonates with you and you're ready to explore what it means to create a fulfilling life without children, I would love for you to book a Thrive call with me. It's 45 minutes. I'll help you map out what is next for you, how you can start to live with joy and find purpose in your life. You can find the link in my show notes or just go to my website and you can book there. I just want to thank you for spending this time with me today. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, I would love it if you would rate it and review it and help women who, like us, were offered zero resources when we found out that we were going to be childless after infertility or childless not by choice. The more ratings and reviews we get on the podcast, the more likely it is that somebody who is searching for this message will be able to find it. So if you could help me out with a rating or review, I so appreciate it. So I hope you have a beautiful week. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called the Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/things people say.